Good morning, Trade Geeks. Today is November 7th, 2025. So welcome to another TGIF, Trade Geeks It's Friday. And today's hot topic is the Legal Eagle Arm Wrestle. So over the past few days, we've heard discussions and we've heard about this hearing with SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, as they argue tariffs. The big argument seems to be over the Major Questions Doctrine. Basically, whether the president has authority or Congress has the authority to institute these tariffs, and whether these tariffs were in fact an emergency action that demanded an intervention by the executive. So, as my famous friend, two feathers, same birds always says, lately it looks like we've got special interests masquerading in a contest of principles. So, we've got also the shutdown in addition to this. So if anybody's traveling, stay safe out there and be patient. So anyway, regarding the tariffs, there's a big questions and concern because we may be looking at a big refund mess. With the deluge of tariffs that we're seeing out there from EPA, reciprocal, fentanyl, all these terms of 232 steel, aluminum, copper, automotive, heavy truck, medium trucks, other trucks, we're basically being swarmed with tariffs here lately. So about 60% of the tariffs are actually the EPA tariffs, which are the emergency tariffs, right, that were instituted by this administration. So I think those pretty much are the ones that are being discussed now regarding the president's ability to implement them and enforce them. And also people are throwing numbers out there. The media is trying to scare everybody, saying it's about $1 trillion. I think it's more like $140 billion so far to date. So we're hoping that the Supreme Court here makes a quick decision, right, rather than a late decision, because the tariffs will add up to maybe $1 trillion if they take a year to make a decision here. But if they make the decision quickly here, we're talking about a couple $100 billion, which isn't nothing to laugh at, but it's not close to $1 trillion. So the cause and effect here is going to be what's going to happen if the tariffs are reversed. If the tariffs are reversed, we're going to have everybody running to the trough here to get the refunds. So that's going to become an administrative nightmare, I think, for CBP, and then also for the importers, right? Because they're going to have to deal with the administrative burden of preparing the protests that'll be required, or the post-summary corrections that'll be required. And with the shutdown, it's kind of put everybody in a pickle right now. What do I think will happen? I try not to voice my opinion on here, but if we ignore the messenger instead of avoid the messenger, and we look at the purpose of the tariffs or the justification for the tariffs were unfair trade, our borders, the drug intervention, there's a tremendous amount of fentanyl deaths in the United States. And then also, how we negotiate with other countries. I think literally every other country has an EVA tax, some form of a value-added tax, which is foreign-facing tax, right? So we have to deal with that. Our exporters, our companies here in the U.S. have to deal with that. So if we're considering all that, the flip side is that, does the tariffs give the president the ability to negotiate, right? And eliminate the status quo, which is what we've seen here for a long time, is we've had a status quo. What do we think is going to happen? Well, I think that basically Congress should have the control for implementing tariffs, right? And I think that, even the president having the power to declare war can only do that for a certain number of days before he seeks congressional approval. So I think that, yes, I think that the executive should have some leniency here as far as implementing tariffs in order for a successful foreign policy. But they shouldn't last very long. And if they are going to stay long term, then, he needs to seek congressional approval. So I think that what we're hearing from some of the noise that's coming out of the Supreme Court is that I think they all agree that, the president doesn't have the powers to really implement permanent tariffs, particularly as we talk about the EPA tariffs, the emergency tariffs. And the 232s, which is 40% of the tariffs, those are, I don't think there's a doubt about those. Those are common tariffs that exist, that are very specific. So I believe that the Supreme Court is going to be forced to rule against the tariffs. I think possibly they'll give us a 90-day transition period, hopefully. And during the transition period, the big question will be, will they allow the refunds, or they may not allow the refunds, right? Because all this money that's going to come out, these hundreds of billions of dollars, are basically going to go into the importers' pockets, but the consumers have paid the bill, right? In the purchase, when they purchase their products here at the stores. So there's a lot of contention here that we're listening to. We got to keep our eyes open and our ears open, because we could see a conclusion here. It could be in 2 weeks or 2 months. We don't know, but we got to be prepared. And thankfully here at TradeFlex, if you listen to our videos, we're up to 30 plus videos now that we've published here on our website. And if you look at our videos, I think we've done a fairly good job here of preparing everybody as this has progressed. And I think right now, the measures that we've taken, for those that have taken, the controls that we've implemented, our dashboards, how we manage the customs entry data for our clients, is positioned us in a pretty good position for whatever happens, whether the tariffs are repealed or whether they stay. We're prepared and we feel comfortable with that. So again, thank you everybody for following us, and have a great weekend.